She wanted space to breathe. Now she's gasping for attention in a silence she built herself, wondering why no one's reaching back anymore. My name's Ethan, 30 years old, marketing analyst in Denver, the kind of guy who keeps his workspace color-coded and his feelings compartmentalized. My girlfriend, Mia, 27, had always said she loved that I was stable. I thought that meant dependable. Turns out she meant predictable. It happened on a Thursday night. She came in late from girls' dinner, smelling like rose and guilt, dropped her purse on the couch and said, almost rehearsed, "I just need space. I feel like I can't breathe. Maybe we should take a break." I asked, quietly, "Space from what? Honesty or accountability?" She rolled her eyes like I was making it dramatic. 2 days later, she posted a photo. Her in a linen dress, hair perfect, holding a champagne glass. Caption: "New beginning sparkles?" Coworker tagged. The same guy she'd said was like a brother. Her friends flooded it with hearts. That Friday, at the bar we both used to go to, one of her friends laughed. "Guess Ethan finally learned he was just the pre-boyfriend." Everyone laughed. Even the bartender didn't meet my eyes. A week later, Mia packed her things with the same efficiency she once used to alphabetize my spice rack. No conversation, no tears, just the soft, deliberate sound of drawers closing and hangers scraping the rod. She left a note on the counter in that looping handwriting she used for birthday cards. "Don't call. I need time to find myself." The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd already found herself in someone else's tagged photos. 3 days later, my phone buzzed. A coworker sent me a link to her Instagram story. Mia on a yacht, hair whipping in the wind, that coworker beside her, both holding glasses of rose. The caption read, "Freedom." The song playing in the background? George Michael's Freedom, 90. Subtlety was never her strength. By Monday, the office whispers began. I caught the lingering glances, the fake sympathy. Word had spread that I'd been controlling. That's what she was telling people. I guess asking for honesty was control now. At lunch, my colleague Jenna leaned across the table and asked quietly, "You okay?" I nodded because what else was there to say? "I'm fine" is the adult version of hiding under the bed. That night, I laced up my running shoes for the first time in months. The air was cold enough to sting, and every step down the quiet Denver streets became its own interrogation. Why am I apologizing for being loyal? Why do the liars always get the narrative first? Why do the faithful always look like fools at the start? I started running every night after that. 10 blocks, then 20, until I could circle the entire neighborhood without thinking of her name. But the silence she left behind wasn't peaceful. It was surgical, a kind of absence that cuts clean, leaving only the echo of what you didn't say. I muted her social media, deleted our photos, archived every memory like it was evidence from a case I no longer wanted to argue. The apartment felt cavernous, each room humming with a faint aftersound of her laughter. Her coffee mug still sat in the cabinet, chipped on the rim. I caught myself reaching for it one morning before stopping cold. Small habits, big ghosts. Friends tried to help. "You'll move on, man," my buddy Eric said over beers. "She wasn't your forever." I didn't want to move on. I wanted meaning. I wanted the why. The truth was, the silence she left wasn't mutual. It was weaponized. Every unanswered text, every story post of her new life was a declaration. I win. But the thing about silence is it doesn't stay empty for long. It starts filling with realizations you didn't have space for before, the kind that sting but also sharpen you. I realized I'd spent more time managing her emotions than my own, that I'd been proud of being the calm one while she set fires for attention. That love shouldn't feel like constant damage control disguised as devotion. One night, around midnight, I sat on the floor by the window, looking out over the city lights. For the first time, I didn't feel grief. I felt clarity. Mia wanted space. She got it, miles of it. And I finally understood something she never would. Peace isn't found on yachts or in hashtags. It's in staying still long enough to hear your own heartbeat after the noise leaves. That was the silence I never chose, but maybe it was the one I needed. A month passed, and for the first time I thought I was getting my footing back. I'd stopped checking her socials, stopped wondering who was in her photos. The running helped, the quiet mornings helped even more. But closure has a cruel sense of humor. It always circles back when you least expect it. It was a Friday night when my friend Marcus texted, "Birthday dinner for Jenna tonight. You in?" I hesitated but said yes. I needed to remind myself I could exist in public again, not as the guy who got dumped, but as a functioning human. The restaurant was one of those dimly lit Denver spots with exposed brick and overpriced cocktails. I walked in, gift in hand, smile ready. Then I saw her. Mia. Red dress. Gold earrings I'd given her last Christmas. And beside her, Evan, the coworker. The air in the room thinned. She saw me too, of course. Her smile didn't falter, but it changed just enough to say, "Oh, this will be fun." I told myself to stay cool. Just another evening. Just people eating dinner. Halfway through, when the drinks were flowing and the playlist got louder, someone, probably one of her friends, raised a glass. "A toast," she said, eyes glinting. "To freedom and honesty." Mia tilted her glass, looking straight at me. "Some people," she said, voice carrying just enough to reach the whole table, "confuse love with control." Laughter rippled like static. Evan chuckled, squeezing her hand. I didn't say a word, didn't roll my eyes or look away dramatically. I just set my drink down, nodded once at Jenna, and walked out. The cool air outside hit me like truth. For the first time, I didn't feel humiliated, I felt done. An hour later, I got a text from Jenna. "You should have said something." She looked like she won. I stared at that message for a long time before typing back. "I'm not playing anymore." That night, I didn't drink, didn't spiral. I opened my laptop, finished a project that had been haunting my inbox for weeks. Then another. Then another. My nights became stacked with deadlines and quiet, both easier to manage than people. Work became my refuge, not out of ambition, but as therapy through spreadsheets and client calls. The emptiness started to feel productive. 2 weeks later, HR introduced a new designer, Lauren. Soft-spoken, sharp-eyed, the kind of person who listened before speaking. She had this habit of humming under her breath while sketching, like music was a language only she spoke fluently. Our first conversation was accidental, both waiting for the espresso machine that always took too long. "You'd think a $4,000 coffee maker could make a latte without crying first," she said, deadpan. I laughed for the first time in what felt like months. Coffee breaks became meetings, then walks to the parking lot, then playlists swapped over email. She loved The National. I countered with Bon Iver. We debated song lyrics like philosophy majors who still believed words could save people. She didn't ask about Mia, and I didn't volunteer. There was no interrogation, no performance of empathy. Just calm. One Friday, after a long design sprint, we stayed late. The office was empty except for the hum of computers and the glow of monitor light. She looked up from her sketch and said, "You always seem like you're trying not to take up space." It wasn't an accusation, it was observation. I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled. "Maybe you should," she added. "Take up space, I mean, you exist. You get to." Simple words, but they hit deeper than any grand speech ever could. That night, driving home, I realized something. Mia had turned silence into punishment, but Lauren made it feel like peace again. The contrast was blinding. And for the first time, I didn't want revenge or closure or validation. I just wanted to keep walking toward the kind of quiet that didn't hurt to hear. It was a quiet Sunday morning, 2 months after that dinner fiasco. My plants were alive for once. The apartment finally smelled like coffee instead of ghosts, and my running shoes were by the door, waiting. I was about to head out when someone knocked. When I opened the door, I almost didn't recognize her. Mia stood there in an oversized hoodie, hair tangled, mascara smudged into soft bruises beneath her eyes. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, but like the spotlight had finally burned her down. "I thought you'd reach out," she said, voice trembling just enough to sound practiced. "I made a mistake." I leaned against the doorframe, keeping the distance she'd once begged for. "You wanted space. Here it is." Her eyes flickered, searching for an old version of me to argue with. Ethan, please. You don't know what it's been like. Evan. He's not who I thought he was. Of course he wasn't. Freedom never looks good when the followers stop clapping. She stepped closer, wringing her hands. He just disappeared. After everything. He said I was too much. My friends. Her voice cracked. They stopped talking to me. Someone leaked screenshots. Stuff I said about you. Now everyone thinks I'm a villain. Finished. Tears slid down her face. I just wanted to breathe. I shook my head. You confused oxygen with attention. Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. Just silence, the kind that didn't belong to me anymore. I closed the door gently, not dramatically, just final. For a few minutes, I stood there, listening to her footsteps fade down the hallway. My hands were steady. My heartbeat wasn't. But I didn't feel anger, just relief. Closure doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just walks away quietly wearing yesterday's makeup. Later that week, she found a new angle. Apparently, regret didn't get her the audience she wanted. It started with whispers at work again. Jenna messaged me, "Hey, just a heads up. Mia's been reaching out to people here." I sighed. "What now?" "She's telling people you were manipulative. Said you isolated her and made her feel small." Classic projection. I'd seen this script before, but this time I came prepared. I pulled up the folder I'd made months earlier, screenshots, voice notes, timestamps. Not revenge, just insurance. Among them was a text she'd sent during her post-breakup influencer phase. I kind of pretend to be miserable online. It drives engagement, lol. I forwarded it to HR, not because I wanted to humiliate her, but because rumors have a way of growing legs and I was done chasing them. Within a day, the storm died. People who mattered saw the truth. People who didn't just moved on to the next piece of gossip. Lauren found out, of course. She came by my desk one morning holding 2 coffees. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Just tired of reruns." She smiled. Then changed the channel. Simple, but it stuck. Meanwhile, Mia's reputation imploded in real time. Screenshots leaked in group chats. Her calling herself the main character of heartbreak, while mocking people who'd supported her. She became a meme in our social circle. The girl who mistook chaos for character development. Mutual friends reached out cautiously. "She's really going through it, man. Maybe talk to her." But empathy doesn't mean re-entry. I wished her healing from a safe distance. Weeks passed. Life settled back into rhythm. Lauren and I started getting lunch together more often. Not dates, just 2 people sharing quiet that didn't demand anything. Every now and then, Mia's name would pop up somewhere, tagged in a post mentioned in passing. Each time I felt nothing, and that was its own kind of freedom. Truth spreads slower than drama, but it sticks longer. And when it finally caught up, it didn't need me to speak. I'd already said everything by staying silent the right way this time. When HR asked me to come in for a brief conversation about outside conduct, I already knew what it was. The phrasing was polite, corporate, like a warning label before a storm. Mia had filed a complaint. The conference room smelled like burnt coffee and hand sanitizer. Across the table sat our HR rep, a compliance officer, and a woman from legal with the practiced calm of someone who's seen this movie 100 times. "Ethan," the rep began, "we've received a concern regarding personal matters that may intersect with your professional environment. Translation, your ex is still trying to rewrite the story. They asked if I'd had any contact with her recently. I told the truth, none. Then I slid a printed folder across the table. Screenshots of her posts, the messages she'd sent to coworkers, the timestamps, public, verifiable. I kept my tone neutral, detached, like this was just another client issue to resolve. The legal rep flipped through the pages, sighed softly, and said, "You're fine. Just steer clear of her. Document everything." I nodded. "Already do." They let me go with an awkward smile that meant we believe you, but we hate this drama in our building. For a few days it was quiet, unsettlingly quiet. I convinced myself maybe she'd finally burned out, until the morning I found my car. Deep gouges along the driver's side door, like someone had taken a key and carved frustration into paint. $1,600 in damage, according to the mechanic. I asked to see the building's security footage. There she was, 2:17 a.m., hoodie up, head down, the same white sneakers she'd posted about the week before. She looked smaller on camera. Not fragile, just diminished. I took the footage to the police. The officer looked about my age, weary but kind. He watched the clip twice, then said, "Some people think this is passion. It's vandalism." He helped me file the report, and when he asked if I wanted to press charges, I didn't hesitate. Yes, because this wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about boundaries. About finally protecting the peace I'd built piece by piece after she tried to burn it down. 2 weeks later, the court issued a restraining order. 1 year. No contact. No proximity. No messages. No excuses. The notice came in a plain envelope, official and anticlimactic. I stared at it on my kitchen counter for a long time before opening it. The words were sterile, impersonal, but they hummed with something like finality. Lauren was there that night. She'd come over to help me cook, her hair tied up, sleeves rolled to her elbows. When the email notification pinged, I must have gone silent, because she turned from the stove and saw my face. "What is it?" Restraining order came through. She wiped her hands on a towel and crossed the room, taking the phone from my hand like it might break. She read the document, then nodded once. Good. I didn't realize how tense my shoulders were until she reached for my hand and squeezed. "You okay?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Relieved, I guess. Tired." Lauren smiled, faint but real. Everyone ends up living inside the mess they built. It wasn't cruel. It was simple truth. Mia had built hers out of attention and performance. Now she was trapped inside it, screaming to an empty audience. I, meanwhile, was finally free. Not because the court said so, but because I'd stopped letting her chaos define me. That night, after Lauren left, I stood by the window again, city lights flickering like pulse beats across the skyline. I thought about everything I'd lost, and how strangely intact I still felt. Freedom, I realized, has a cost. It's paid in restraint, in silence, in choosing not to answer every provocation. It's the price of walking away without needing the world to know you were right. I paid it gladly. Half a year later, I barely recognized the man I used to be. The apartment was new, smaller, brighter, facing east so the mornings actually felt like beginnings. My running shoes sat by the door, still dusted with trail dirt from the foothills. There were plants on every windowsill now, thriving where nothing used to survive. Peace had texture again. Work was steady. Lauren and I had settled into a rhythm. Not a relationship yet, but something better. Two people who didn't need to perform calm because they actually had it. We'd grab coffee on Fridays, talk about books, deadlines, the weird serenity of growing up without realizing it. She made silence feel like a shared language instead of punishment. Every so often, someone from the old circle would bring up Mia. "Have you seen her latest post?" They'd ask, half curious, half gossiping. I never looked, but sometimes they'd show me anyway. A photo of a half-empty mug, captioned, "He forgot me, but I still remember the smell of his coffee." A mirror selfie with tired eyes. Learning to love myself in the quiet. A blurry sunset. Healing isn't linear. The hashtags were endless, but the likes weren't. The algorithm had moved on, so had everyone else. She wanted space, and she got it. An entire galaxy of it. No likes, no DMs, no audience, just echo. I'd once thought silence was absence. Now I understood it was a mirror. Hers reflected loneliness. Mine reflected peace. One night, as I sat on my balcony watching the city flicker awake in reverse, lights turning off instead of on, I realized something simple and terrifying. I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't love her either. I just didn't feel anything at all. That's the real ending nobody posts about. Not revenge, not redemption. Just neutrality. The absence of weight. I caught myself smiling at the thought. She had tried to turn me into a villain so she could be the victim. When that didn't work, she tried to become the poet. But there's a kind of silence that swallows all performance. It's the one you build yourself into when you stop needing to prove anything. She's still gasping for attention in the quiet she made. Still trying to breathe through validation instead of air. I'm breathing easy for the first time in years. I learned that you don't need to take someone's air away to find peace. You just stop being the one who gives it. And in that stillness, in that steady, unremarkable normal, I finally understood what she never could. Silence isn't punishment. It's evolution.